In today's video, we're going to be picking the perfect one watch collection watch from 30 different major watch brands. All right, so just a little bit of info before we start. We will be doing this in alphabetical order, so AP will be coming first. And what we're going to do is select the watch, cover the specs, and then why I think it's the perfect one watch collection watch from that brand. And on that note, let's get on to the first brand, which is AP. This is the AP Royal Oak with the reference number 15510ST.00.1320ST.08. It comes in full stainless steel, has a 10.5mm thickness, a 50m water resistance. It has a silver dial, but there are a couple of different variations of this watch that you can choose between. It has a pretty beautiful bracelet and also the caliber 4302. This has 70 hours of power, 257 joules, and beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH. I just feel like when it comes to AP, the code 1159 is way too dressy, the Royal Oak Offshore is way too sporty, and the Royal Oak concept is just way too bulky. I feel like the Royal Oak fits the perfect in-between between sports but also dress. If you were to buy this watch new, it comes in at £24,800. All right, so next on the alphabetical list, we have Blancpain. Now, the Blancpain that I have chosen is this. This is the 50 fathoms, but specifically it's the 38mm or 38.2mm 50 fathoms. I recently filmed these in Namibia, and they honestly blew me away. They come in at 38.2mm in diameter, 12mm in thickness. They have 300 meters of water resistance. There are a couple of different variations that you can choose between, from red gold to titanium to stainless steel. So there are a couple of variants there. And these models have the caliber 1150. This has 28 joules, is fully automatic, and has 100 hours of power reserve. Now, this watch isn't cheap. I mean, the stainless steel version with the metal bracelet comes in at £16,500, but I do believe that this is the best one watch collection watch in Blancpain's arsenal. I mean, let's look at the other lines that they do. So they have the jewellery, that's way too dressy. Ladybird, way too dressy. Air Command, it's good, but a bit too complicated for an everyday wearer. And then we have the 50 fathoms. And honestly, I was hesitant about putting these guys in general because they are quite chunky. They are quite, let's say, abrasive, could you say? They sometimes lean quite heavily into one side or the other, and they don't fit that in-between category. But I feel like in the new sizing of the 50 fathoms, it does suit that in-between category. So I think the 50 fathoms 38mm is the best everyday wearer from Blancpain. Next on the list, we have Breitling. And honestly, I was going to put the Chronomat GMT, but then earlier in the year, they released this. This is the Breitling Top Time B31. You do have a couple of different variations that you can play with. You've got green, blue, white dial, and they all have different outer rings. These models come in at 38mm in diameter, so they're the pretty perfect size. They come in at 45.8mm lug to lug and 10.3mm in thickness. They come in stainless steel or water resistant to 100 meters and have the Breitling B31 movement, which is fully automatic, beating at 28,800 VPH and having 78 hours of power. Now, these models, if you were to get the bracelet as well, come in at £4,950. I just feel like with this model, you can change it between the leather and the bracelet. And that would really set the precedent for what you're wearing it for, right? A leather to me would be that little bit more classy, that little bit more dressy, whereas the bracelet looks, look at it right now, it looks a lot more sporty. It was a toss-up between the Chronomat and this, but I don't know if you guys agree with me here, but I do think this just suits that little bit more in the it's in the middle, right? It's not left wing, it's not right wing, it's in the middle. The next brand we're going to talk about is Cartier. And honestly, this was a hard one because Cartier is typically a dress brand, right? You'd never get a Cartier to take up a mountain or to go climbing or to, go a run. It's just, it's not done. So this was actually really hard to pick. But if I had to pick, I'd go with this. This is the Cartier Santos. This model has a case diameter of 41.9mm, a case width of 35.1mm, and a thickness, a beautiful thickness of 8.83mm. It has approximately 100 meters of water resistance and a fully automatic movement in the caliber 1847 MC, and this has 40 hours of power. This full package comes in at £6,950. Now, before you say anything, guys, please remember that Cartier is like, it's a dress brand, right? You just never buy it to go on a sporting adventure. But I do think between all the Cartiers, when you take into the tank and all the rest of it, this fits the more sporty, versatile feel for me. And that's why I've gone for it. Casio. Casio is an easy one. And the reason that it's an easy one is because this watch that I'm about to show you is the most sold watch, apart from the Apple Watch, in the world. This is the Casio F9 1W. It comes in at 38.2 millimeters in length, 35.2 millimeters in width, and 8.5 millimeters in height. It comes in full black resin, has a ton of features like a second stopwatch, a daily alarm, hour time signal, an auto calendar, a 12 or 24-hour format, etc., etc., etc. But the best thing about the F9 1W is when I got it, it cost £10, and it lasted for years. Years. Even if you look at people that don't enjoy watches, that aren't in our community, the odds are they'll still have a Casio somewhere kicking around. And that is awesome. And the amount of people that I know that don't care about watches, but they'll still wear a Casio to work, or they'll still wear a Casio to the gym, it's just so versatile, and it is the brand that started most of us off in our collecting journey. And I do think that when it comes to everyday wearers, to one-and-done watches, this is just so many people's one-and-done watch, because why would you need something else? Also, just on a side note, guys, this is now costing £20 on the Casio website, which I'm very, very upset about. This was always a tenner. We call it a tenner in Scotland, but it's now 20 quid. It's not good. But what's even better about Casio is that Chisholm Hunter are authorized retailers. Now listen, guys, I don't do this very often, but if you do enjoy watches and you do enjoy this content, I would really appreciate it if you could check out the Chisholm Hunter website, go and have a little browse. It's much appreciated. And when you support us, we can make more content. And honestly, your support means the world. So thank you guys so much. And while you're at it, if you can hit that subscribe button, that would be doubly better. And I'd love you forever. All right, next watch brand is Chopard. Now, Chopard's another weird one, a bit like Cartier, because it's so dressy that there's not really, like, it's weird, right? But I think out of everything, this is the best one-and-done watch. This is the Alpine Eagle 41 millimeters. It comes in at 41 millimeters, 9.70 millimeters in thickness. Now, you do have a couple of variations you can choose between, but I quite like the green here. I think it looks pretty awesome. It comes in at 100 meters of water resistance and has a fully automatic movement in the caliber Chopard 01.01-C. And this has 207 parts, 31 jewels, is COSC certified, and has 60 hours of power reserve. When you look at the other lines in Chopard's arsenal, I mean, you've got LUC watches, you've got Happy Sports watches, Alpine Eagle watches, Happy Diamond watches. It's all just so dressy that I think this is probably the only watch that I could see being used for both, because the other ones are just so to one side of the spectrum, they aren't a one watch collection watch, whereas I think this is. Now, it is expensive. It comes in at £14,600, but that is my choice for Chopard. Christopher Ward. I think the best one watch collection watch from Christopher Ward has to be not the C1 Jump Hour, because that is the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen. Instead, it has to be this. This is the C60 Trident Pro 300 meters. It comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.3 millimeters in height, 47.45 millimeters lug to lug. Comes in full stainless steel. You do have a couple of different variations again that you can choose between. And the movement in this watch is the SW200-1, which is a Sellita automatic movement. It has 38 hours of power and 26 joules. This watch overall comes in at a pretty brilliant £950. And look at it, it's giving Rolex Explorer 2 vibes, isn't it? And I think the Rolex Explorer 2 within Rolex's arsenal is probably the best watch for everyday wear, the best watch, the best one and done watch. So I think this it fits the bill. Certina. But before we get onto them, if you disagree with any of my choices, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to have that gentle debate, shall we say. And while you're at it, head to our Instagram, the Chisholm Hunter Watches channel, because we're going to be doing a watch collection video very, very soon on your collections. And essentially what we're going to do is be asking you for photos across Instagram so so that we can feature them on a video. It's normally a really popular video. We've done it 3 times before, and I'd love to see your watch collections. The Certina that blew me away this year, and I know that there's going to be comments on the strap, but let me explain before I go on. The Certina that blew me away has to be the Certina DS Action Diver 40.5 millimeters. Now, yes, I know what you're thinking. This has a NATO strap on it. That's way too adventurous for an everyday wearer, and you'd be correct. But they do bracelet versions as well. But just for an example, because I've got tons of footage of the NATO strap, I'll show you that. This comes in at 40.5 millimeters in diameter, 14.1 millimeters in height. Comes in full 316L stainless steel with a ceramic bezel. It has a water resistance of 300 meters, has a Powermatic 80 movement, which is an ETA movement, and it's the 611 edition, and this has 80 hours of power. Now, this full package comes in for £765. I actually did a whole video on this watch, guys, in the Maldives, because it really blew me away, like seriously blew me away, especially some of the tech that's in it when it comes to the DS concept, which is the double security concept. They've kind of refined it. I don't want to go into too much detail because it will bore you, and this video is going to be long as it is, but definitely check that out because honestly, this watch competes with watches triple its price point. It's insane. The Glashütte Original CQ, or Glashütte Original CQ, is next. This is the CQ 39.5 millimeters. It comes in at 12.15 millimeters in case height. Comes in full stainless steel with different colors of dials, but you can also get like I remember we filmed the gold variant, so you can get a gold variant as well. But there's tons of different variations of this watch to choose between. And it has the beautiful in-house automatic movement, which is the caliber 39-11. This has 40 hours of power, beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH. And I do feel like with Glashütte Original, the CQ is its sporty line, but it definitely flies in the middle ground between sports and dress. Like I can see this being worn in both circumstances. Now, something very interesting about Glashütte before we move on is that all of their movements are produced 95% in-house. There's so much wishy-washy gray area stuff in the watch industry where people will pull Sellita movements and call it something totally different and pretend that it's theirs when it's not. So the fact that Glashütte produce all of their movements 95% in-house, and they're pretty transparent about it, I did a factory tour, is really insane. But again, that impacts the price. So let's get on to that. It comes in at £9,400. I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered. I'm going to get killed for this next one, but please bear with me and let me explain. For Grand Seiko, I picked the Shunbun. The Shunbun comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 12.8 millimeters in thickness. It comes in full high-intensity titanium, which gives it this really darkish, awesome hue. And it has the caliber 9R65 with 72 hours of power. It also has box-shaped sapphire crystal glass, which gives it kind of a vintage flair, which is super, super cool. Now, before you guys slaughter me in the comments and say this is far too dressy, let me explain. I was in Iceland with James McVeigh, a buddy of mine, and he had a Shunbun on a NATO strap. And it was super, super cool. It was kind of like a beigey NATO strap. And he said to me that what had happened with his Grand Seiko is he just left it in the safe because he was too scared to wear it because they are highly polished, they are highly dressy. But as soon as he put the NATO on it and started wearing it around wherever he wanted to go, it became his everyday wearer. And I do think that changed something in my brain because I've always had this clear separation between dress and sports, but the lines aren't that concrete. It's more wishy-washy than that. It's more opaque than that. And I do think that dress watches like the Shunbun can be worn as an everyday wearer if only people give it the chance. It comes in at £6,300. Hamilton are next, and then we get on to Hublot, which is an interesting one. So Hamilton watches, typically, I would go for just a Hamilton khaki field because I've seen people going into work with a suit and tie with a Hamilton khaki field. But Hamilton recently brought out this. This is the Hamilton khaki field mechanical with a power reserve coming in at 40 millimeters in diameter. They come in at 11.95 millimeters in thickness, have a fully mechanical movement with 80 hours of power, which is an H23 movement, which is an ETA movement. And they have a couple of different variations to choose between. Now, I do think that with the addition of the kind of power reserve, it gives this watch just a little bit more complication, makes it a little bit more dressy, but it's not taking away any of the khaki feel, the military-inspired watch DNA, right? So I feel like this sits really nicely in two ponds, in two parts of the watch niche, if you want to say that. And it comes in at £840. All right, Hublot. Hublot's an interesting one. It's one that I've not spoken about very much, if at all, on this channel, really. And I think when it comes to Hublot, I did look at the Big Bang, I looked at the classics, but there were just way too much. I think when it comes to the one and done watch for Hublot, it has to be a classic fusion. When it comes to the classic fusion, you have a couple of different variations to choose between. You have a 45mm, a 42mm, a 38mm, and a 33mm. You have a couple of different variations, colors, metals, all that kind of stuff. And the movement in these models is the HUB 1110 self-winding movement with approximately 48 hours of power. But essentially what this is a Solita movement in this watch. It's quite similar to what you find on the Christopher Ward that we just discussed, actually. The Classic Fusion comes in at £6,500. And I do feel like the Classic Fusion it definitely leans more to dress, but I can see, I don't know, it's hard with Hublot, right? Because the more sporty versions are way too sporty. It's too extreme. So I think this was the lesser of two evils. It's hard. See, when a brand doesn't have like a one watch collection watch, but you need to pick, it's hard. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. When it comes to IWC, I didn't go for the Engineer. I didn't go for the Big Pilot. I kind of definitely navigated between them and looked for something a little bit more stripped down and simplistic that fit the bill for everything. And I landed on this, and it's a classic. It's the IWC Mark 20 or Mark XX. There's a ton of variations that you can choose between of this watch. They come in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 10.8 mil in height. They're water resistant to 100 meters, and they have a fully automatic movement with 120 hours of power that beats it for 28,800 VPH, and that's the caliber 32111. These models, if you get the bracelet, come in at £5,500. And I'm going to level with you here. I think that this is IWC's most versatile watch. I do. I think the Engineer, far too sporty. You'd never wear it up a hill. I think the Big Pilot, it's a bit too abrasive, a bit too big. I think this just is perfect. It really is the most versatile watch that IWC do. All right, so next we have another difficult one, because when you're buying a JLC, you're not buying it to go to the gym. You're not buying it to play tennis. You're not buying it to play paddle. You're buying it to wear on dressy occasions. So this was super difficult, but I did land on this. This is the JLC Polaris Date. This model comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, 13.92 millimeters in thickness, is water resistant to 200 meters, has an interior rotating bezel, which is just a super, super cool flex, and has a beautiful movement. It's the automatic caliber 899, and this has 70 hours of power and beats at 28,800 VPH with 218 components. This watch overall comes in at £10,600, but I do think in terms of one watch collection watch, in terms of something that you can wear, something that's sporty but also dressy, that sits in the middle of that field, this is your only option when it comes to JLC. I mean, Reverso, definitely too dressy. There's only really one option, and I think that it is this, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Longines is next, or as I would say in my Scottish accent, Longines. This is a difficult one because I feel like there's so many watches that they've released that really do fit all categories. They really do fit. I mean, the Longines Legend Diver, the white dial, I would say that fits all categories. Or the Longines Conquest, or Longines Conquest Chrono. They're all great. They're all amazing. Longines is just a banging brand, right? But I do think there's one that just, it's been here for about 2 or 3 years now, and it wins every time. And it's this. This is the Longines Hydra Conquest GMT. Comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 49.4 millimeters lug to lug, and 12.9 millimeters in thickness. It has a water resistance of 300 meters and has the caliber L844, which is fully automatic with 72 hours of power. Now, there are a ton of variations that you can choose between of the Hydra Conquest GMT, and there's also been a ton of upgrades to the Hydra Conquest, especially in things like the bracelet. They've got rid of that little flat clasp latch thing and made it much more refined, much more kind of premium, I would say. And this entire package comes in at 2,700. £250. Montblanc. Now this brand is one that doesn't get enough attention purely because I think their writing instruments take over. Like that's the popular thing when it comes to these guys. I've always wanted to climb the mountain in Montblanc. I think that would be really sick for a video for watches actually. If anyone lives near Montblanc, please let me know in the comments because I'd honestly love to have a conversation because I really want to do that. Anyway, I digress. Their watches haven't converted me. And I think when it comes to something that fits every category, you probably look here. This is the Montblanc IC automatic with a date window. Again, like most of these watches, there are a couple of different variations that you can choose between. They come in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 12.9 millimeters in height, 300 meters of water resistance. The Montblanc IC has an automatic movement based on the Sellita SW200. This has 26 joules and 38 hours of power reserve. As a full package with the rubber black strap and the silver dial, for example, you're talking about £2,955. So it's almost $3,000, which seems quite expensive, especially when you consider the fact that it does have a Sellita movement. But then again, the dial detail on this watch is pretty incredible. And honestly, with this one, I just couldn't find another watch that suited the everyday wearer category. I mean, let's have a look. We've got the chronograph. No. We've got the geosphere. Absolutely not. That's definitely an adventure watch, but I couldn't see that in the office, for example. And then we've got the day and night, which definitely seem more dressy. Next on the list, we've got Nomos. And Nomos are definitely more of a dressy brand. I would say that they definitely lean more towards that side with all their marketing and also all their watches, really. But I think finding a good in-between sits here. This is the Nomos Club Sport Neomatic, and the color that I've chosen is petrol. Why? Because I think it's sexy. This model comes in at 37 millimeters in diameter, 8.3 millimeters in thickness, and 47.7 millimeters lug to lug. There are a bunch of different variations that you can choose between, and this movement has the caliber DUW3001, which is an in-house caliber with up to 43 hours of power. These models come in at £3,100. And now we get to Amiga or Omega. Honestly, Daniel Craig calls it Amiga. Hence why I call it Amiga, but every time I do that, I get taken the rip out of in the comments. But I'm gonna keep doing it because I think Daniel Craig's the GOAT and he probably does it the right way. So Amiga actually have a bunch of watches that I was considering, the Aquaterra being one of them, the Speedmaster being another one, and I know you guys will disagree with the Speedmaster, but I didn't choose it in the end. The Seamaster definitely airs too much on the sporty side, but I think there's a new watch that's pretty perfectly in between. This is the Amiga Seamaster Railmaster. It comes in at 38 millimeters in diameter, 44.92 millimeters lug to lug, and 12.36 mil in thickness. It has the Amiga caliber 8806 with 55 hours of power. This watch comes in at £5,200. And honestly, I just think it gives Rolex Explorer 1 a little bit. And I think it honestly sits perfectly in between dress and dive. It's got all the functionality, but it doesn't scream too loud. And I think it's just perfect, honestly. Oris is a weird one. Oris is one that I haven't heard much about recently. They've kind of been flying below the radar. And I think that their key line, Oris's key line is definitely the Aquis, right? It's the sporty diving watch. I think that airs just way too much on the side of sports. But I think this new model, it changes things a little bit. This is the Oris Diver's Date, coming in at 39 millimeters in diameter. Has a fully automatic caliber 733-1 with 41 hours of power. It comes in stainless steel, but there are, again, a couple of different variations that you can choose between. And overall, it actually comes in at a really good price point of £2,100. When comparing this head-to-head with the Aquis, I think this is actually a lot more wearable. And yeah, you might say it's not as functional, which it probably isn't. But I think in terms of fitting every single scenario you put it in, this new Oris Diver is really, it really hits out of the park. But let me know what you guys think on the Oris front, because I've honestly not heard anything from them in a really long time. It's weird. They've kind of like fallen off the map. Like, I know they're still brilliant watches, but I just don't hear anything about them. Panerai, or Panerai, depending on what you want to say and how you want to pronounce it. I'm Scottish, I'm gonna say Panerai. It's annoying because I wanted to pick a submersible, but submersibles are just too They're just too sporty. They're just too out there. They're too macho to be an everyday wearer. Whereas this Luminor, I think, is much better and much more well-rounded. This is the PAM 01371. This model comes in at a much more comfortable 40 millimeters in diameter, but it still has the DNA of that crown lock system on the right-hand side, which is patented by Panerai, and one of my favorite details on a Panerai watch. There's a couple of different variations. This one has a white dial, which I think works really, really well. It comes in full stainless steel, has a water resistance of 100 meters, and has the fully automatic caliber P900 with 3 days of power reserve. This model comes in at £6,700. And I do love Panerai because they don't really change. They're known as the big brand. And I feel like if you were to wear Panerai, it'd be strange getting a smaller Panerai. But this coming in at 40 millimeters definitely feels more achievable for most people, you know, especially when you're first getting into a brand. You're never going to buy a 44, 46, 47 mil watch. It's just too much. You need to buy into the brand first at a palatable size and then start scaling up. And I feel like this is what this watch is. It's more palatable. It's more for everyone, hence being a one watch collection watch, hence being in this video. The Rado Captain Cook fully automatic is next, coming in at 42 millimeters in diameter, 12.1 millimeters in thickness, coming in high-tech ceramic and stainless steel, like most Rados are. It has a fully automatic movement in the R763 with 80 hours of power, and it comes in at £2,300. To be honest, guys, there's so many different Rado Captain Cooks that you can choose between. I've just selected one at random that I thought was quite cool and quite versatile, but I think the Captain, I mean, let's have a look. The Captain Cook is definitely the most versatile one, but let's have a look at their collections. So you've got the true square, definitely not. The Centrix, definitely not. True round, nope. True thin line, too dressy. Florence, too dressy. Diastar, no way. Hyperchrome Classic, maybe, but I still prefer the Captain Cook. I could go on, but you guys get my point here. I think the Captain Cook's definitely the one from Rado. Raymond Weil. Raymond Weil just released the Tokita, which I'm actually not. I like it to a degree, but I'm not huge on it. It didn't convert me. I think when looking at Raymond Weil and looking at something that's versatile, you'd really want to look something along the lines of this, the Millesime. This Millesime model comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 10.25 mil in thickness. It has a water resistance of 50 meters, has a small seconds there on the dial, has the self-winding movement RW4251, and has 41 hours of power. It comes in full stainless steel with a leather strap. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking this is way too dressy. And yeah, with the leather strap, I'd agree. But if you put a NATO strap on this, I think it totally changed the personality. A little bit like the Grand Seiko Shunbun. I really do think this could be used as a everyday wearer for anything, do anything, one and done. Rolex, we were going to get onto it eventually, I suppose. It was a toss-up between the Explorer and the Explorer 2. I have been on a couple of trips abroad. I've been to Iceland, I've been to Zermatt, I've been to a couple of places, and Adrian brought his Explorer 2, whereas Chris, another buddy of mine, brought his Explorer 1. And honestly, guys, I can't pick between them because I think they're both fantastic and they're definitely the most versatile watches within Rolex's range. So I'm going to leave this one up to you guys. Do you think for Rolex, the perfect one-watch collection watch would be the Explorer 1? Or the Explorer 2. Seiko. For Seiko, I've gone for one that's a bit more off-piste. I love Seiko. I have 3 Seikos. I'm actually getting a bit obsessed with Seiko. And I think this is quite a good in-between model. This is the SSK023 from the Seiko 5 Sports Field series. It has GMT functionality, a black dial, steel bezel, and it comes in at 39.4 millimeters in diameter, 13.6 mil in thickness, and the lug-to-lug is 47.9 millimeters. It comes in full stainless steel, and it has a fully automatic caliber 4R34 with 41 hours of power. Being totally transparent, guys, Seiko's arsenal is absolutely huge. It's humongous. The catalog's ginormous. So there's gonna be more watches that you could pick here. I guarantee it. There's so many beautiful Seikos, but I think this one fits the bill. I like the bracelet. I think that bracelet looks that little bit more classic, that little bit more dressy, but the face of this watch screams more adventure to me, thus being a little bit of a hybrid. This specific model comes in at £410. Tag Heuer. Tag Heuer is an interesting one. The Formula 1, definitely too sporty. The Aquaracer, too sporty. The Monaco, too dressy. I think that the Carrera, takes this one. This is the Tag Heuer Carrera Day Dates. It's actually kind of new and it's pretty awesome. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, has a water resistance of 100 meters. It comes in full stainless steel, has a thickness of 12.7 millimeters, and has the fully automatic caliber TH31-02 with 80 hours of power reserve. This model comes in at £3,650. Tissot's not that much of a fun one because there's obviously a clear winner here. I'm not going to pick the new Tissot PRX 38mm because I just think the 40mm works. It works in any, I have one literally through next door and it works in any circumstance. The sizing doesn't make that much of a difference to the versatility of a watch. In my opinion, it's more the actual style of the watch that makes that difference. So this is the Tissot PRX 40mm Powermatic 80. It comes in at 40 millimeters, 10.93 millimeters in thickness, and the length is 39.5 millimeters. Water resistant up to 100 meters, comes in full stainless steel, and has the Powermatic 80 movement with, you guessed it, 80 hours of power. These watches come in at £640 and are definitely the most popular watches in Tissot's arsenal, and they're brilliant. What can I say about these, really? There's not really much to say. Timex is a great brand. It's a brand that I like for the affordability. I kind of have a little bit of gripe with when it comes to copying styles a touch. Now, I'm not making any accusations, but some of their watches look remarkably like others. And change something, don't just rip it and copy it straight away, but change. But they're a great brand. Listen, don't get me wrong, they are a great brand. And I think when I was looking through this for something that's very, very versatile, I stumbled across this. This is the Timex Expedition Capstone Automatic. Coming in full stainless steel, it has a case diameter of 39 millimeters, case height of 12 millimeters, case material of, I think I said this, stainless steel, and it has a fully automatic movement in which is not actually documented what it is on their website, but I can gather from the price of this watch that it's probably something quite cheap. It probably isn't a great movement. But listen, the style of these watches is really good. I've actually had a Timex before, ages ago when I was really, really young, and the history is great as well. This is a great brand, but I feel like their styles are just too emblematic of other watch brands, and they should try and do their own stuff because they're a great brand with great history. This watch overall comes in at £280. And now we're down to the final three. So Tudor. Tudor is one that we all kind of know the answer to what is good. Like, you all know what I'm about to say. It's either the Tudor Black Bay Heritage or the Tudor Black Bay 58. And it's the Tudor Black Bay 58. I think it fits every occasion. This is the original Tudor Black Bay 58 with the black dial. It comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.9 millimeters in case thickness. It has a unidirectional rotatable bezel, which the bezel pops off of the 58. Oh, so good. It has a COSC certified MT5402 movement with 70 hours of power, and it comes in at a total of £3,550. Vacheron Constantin. This is another interesting one because when you're buying when you're buying something at that price, over £5,000 to £10,000, there's no way that you're actually going to use it for expeditions or out in the field or to the gym or to the climbing gym or up a hike, because it's just so damn expensive. You wouldn't want to break it. It's so much money to a lot of us. I know that some people have the funds to be able to buy these kind of things, but if I were to eventually buy a watch at 10, 20, 30 grand, there's no way that I would take it on any of these adventures that I go on because I'd just be too nervous about it. So it's a tricky one because on one hand, I'm thinking you can't really pick any Vacherons that are an everyday wearer because they're so premium, so expensive. But on the other hand, this video is about that. So I stumbled upon this. This is the Vacheron Overseas Blue Dial 3-hand, and it comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, 10.69 millimeters in thickness. It has a 15-bar water resistance, or 150 meters, and has a beautiful caliber 5100 self-winding movement with 60 hours of power. I absolutely adore the Vacheron Constantin Overseas. I think that Vacheron, to me, sits at the top of the Holy Trinity. I really, really do. I would pick a Vacheron over a Patek and over an AP. I love that brand. I love what they're doing. I love the new Burgundy Overseas. But anyway, I'm going totally off piece. Let's get to the price. This model comes in at £24,800. And now we get to Zenith. I think when looking at Zenith, again, it falls into the same thing as Vacheron, where you're like, I don't really know where to put you because you are so expensive. even though it's a sports watch, it's a very expensive sports watch that wouldn't necessarily be used in a sporty scenario. But I do remember a buddy of mine that I used to work with got this. His name was Jake, actually, and he got this. And I remember seeing it on his wrist and thinking, oh, that's really, really cool. This is the Zenith Defy Skyline Skeleton watch. It comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter, has a beautiful El Primero movement with 163 components and 55 hours of power. It has a water resistance of 100 meters, and it's totally skeletonized. I mean, look at that watch. It's brilliant. It comes in at £10,400, and yes, I know what you're saying, very, very expensive, but the game's the game. I have to do this video, and actually, I was swaying between this and the Chronomaster Sport, but I do think that this, if I were to have it, would be the more versatile of the two. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you did enjoy. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HP Lifelets, or the podcast, the Into the Mind podcast. And I'll see you guys real soon.